No, that one wasn't fun. The Dodgers dropped Game 5. It is now a 3-2 series heading back to Los Angeles for Game 6. However, I think there are still reasons to keep your head up. Let's see if my co-hosts agree. This is the Sick Podcast, The Dodger Zone. I'm Ryan Bershinger. She's Monse Bolaños. He is Beau Benson. Let's get into it.
Turn up your volume. Because you're about to listen to The Sick Podcast. The Dodger Zone.
That's strike three. Dodgers have won it all in 2020.
Fernando Valenzuela has pitched a no-hitter at 10:17 in the evening of June the 29th, 1990. If you have a sombrero, throw it to the sky.
The sickest LA Dodgers podcast. It's gonna be sick.
Okay, guys, first off, I think we have to really point out the obvious flaw for today. As we talked about in the previous episode, Rich Davis was in attendance Game 1 in LA, where the Dodgers won 9-0. He did not go to Game 2, and the Mets won. He then flew to New York and attended both Games 3 and 4, where the Dodgers won both of those. And in the 3 games that he attended, the Dodgers outscored the Mets 27-2. But guess what? Rich Davis was not in attendance today. So I think we now have to crowdfund Rich's ticket for Game 6. Because I'm not saying that he can't afford
he should just buy a ticket and go. Yeah, he can afford it.
I think he's very jaded at this point. But yeah, we have to force him to go to Game 6 because I think that is what's going to get the Dodgers to the World Series.
For sure. I don't know why didn't they call the win the game play? That's what I don't
know. Typically that works.
Yeah.
And today they just overlooked it. Okay, let's dive into the real reasons of what happened today. So first, we'll start off with Jack Flaherty. Jack Flaherty in Game 1 of this series was dominant. Had his best stuff all season, 7 shutout innings, beautiful, beautiful work. It was the complete opposite today in Game 5. His fastball velocity was noticeably down to the point where everybody was mentioning it. The TV broadcast, the radio broadcast, everyone on Twitter is bringing up the fact that his fastball velocity is down. Got no swing and misses. I think at all. He had no strikeouts. I don't think he had a single swing and miss. And for 3 innings, he was kind of left out there to die in the third inning. And that sort of followed for the rest of the game, in which at that point, it did kind of seem like we were seeing the same sort of thing we saw in Game 2, where Dave was just incredibly hands-off. Yeah. Monse, what did you think about the pitching performance today? What are your thoughts for the game as a whole?
It's unfortunate that he came out not hot. Like from the get-go, it wasn't good. And there have been a lot of vibes when it comes to this October baseball, where the team that seems to score first has a huge advantage. Even if it's just one run, I feel like scoring first has been a big part of whoever wins the game. And so it was rough because it looked rough. I obviously didn't know that the problem was velocity until everyone and their mom started mentioning it. But you could tell that he wasn't there. They had easy time hitting him from the get-go. So it's just like it sucked. And yeah, it did seem like at one point, are the Dodgers just going through the motions when it sucked because the Dodgers were down, but they kept fighting. Like it wasn't like a completely boring game. Just it sucked for us because we were down the whole time. But it wasn't a shutout by any means. It wasn't a shutout. So it just did seem like, are we going through the motions? Because like some of us seem to be fighting, but the other part I can't figure out.
Yeah. Beau, how'd you feel?
I hate to say that, but you can look in each postseason game and you can kind of find the moment where the game was lost or won. The Dodgers putting runners on second and third in the first inning with nobody out and not scoring there, the game was over. That was the end of the game.
And that it was Mookie and Ohtani.
Yeah.
Too. That it was like
Ohtani single, Mookie double. It was off Marte's glove. The Mets have every reason to be down, and to not put runs there. The Mets were winning that game from that point on. That was the end of the game. I hate to say that the first inning is the end of the game, but that was the end of the game. It completely changed the complexion. I don't know what Dave Roberts was thinking today. It's insane to me to punt in 2 games in the LCS and still be in a good position to win. Mm-hmm. But he absolutely punted that game today, and there was no reason to. There was no reason to until it was 5-1. They were in the game. They're putting guys on each inning. They obviously were going to break through because they did. They ultimately did, but Dave let it get so out of hand that it didn't matter. So that was honestly like one of the worst, I think, Dodger playoff losses in a long time, especially considering the chance that they had the ability to just clinch and move on. But, we'll see what happens on Sunday, I guess. But yeah, I hate saying that the game was over in the first inning, but the game was over in the first inning.
Yeah, I don't disagree. I forgot that happened in this first inning because you're right. We didn't capitalize on that. And I was like, wow, look at that. Second and third that quickly.
The amount of shit that Will Smith has gotten for not hitting, even though he's had great at bats, we got to direct that towards Teoscar because he is still hitless, I believe, right? I stopped watching intently after a while, but if he's still hitless, there's no reason for him to be in the lineup. Just flat out none at this point. Like, you need someone in there that's going to produce. Pages looked great today, so maybe you can just stick Pages in left field and let Kiermaier play center. I don't know, but Teoscar can't just be a black hole in the middle of the lineup.
No, I mean, I wouldn't go that far. I think Teoscar still needs to be in the lineup every day because he's too good of a hitter to not have this figured out at some point. But I mean, today he did not look competitive in his at-bats really at all.
Just an active detriment.
And that first inning was very much a vibe killer. Half of that, yes, as they pointed out, like Ohtani could have scored, being that it was a grounder to short. They were kind of conceding the run because Lindor was playing back. But I also think half of that too is because, Teoscar swung at the first pitch. And so I wonder if Ohtani didn't realize the pitch had been thrown yet, because they had mentioned like Ohtani didn't have a good lead or anything. And suddenly the ball was in play. Maybe he just kind of like wasn't actively looking for a second, and suddenly like he kind of was held up. At the same time too, it's second and third with nobody out. Yes, you can score on that grounder, but also you don't want to potentially risk having the first out of the inning at home, and that just completely destroys the rally. So you kind of figure there's still a chance to get in after that. And Freddie hit the ball well, but it was right at Alonso. So that really damped that inning.
Teoscar's got to he's got to put the ball in the air.
Yeah.
You can't hit a grounder there. You can't do that.
No, I agree. But yes, let's dive more into Flaherty's performance and the way that David handled it. The first couple innings, Beau, you and I were still at work and we were watching it together. And you have been more on the side of like being super aggressive with the bullpen and getting a starter out there right away. And I was saying like, it's hard to be super aggressive today, given that it's the third of 3 games in a row, and you know that you've got the bullpen game in Game 6, assuming it gets there. And of course, yes, it is getting there now. But the point being, it was hard to be like, well, yes, Flaherty doesn't have it, but pulling him in the second inning of this game doesn't bode well. However, then in the third inning, when he's getting hit, I don't know why when Pryor goes out there to talk to him, there's still nobody up in the pen. And so that was the point there where I felt like they really did. This is what we saw in Game 2, where Dave this series has been either incredibly aggressive all postseason. He's either incredibly aggressive or incredibly conservative. And so we saw that super conservative side today. Thankfully, Brent Honeywell did come in and eat up all of the innings, except for, oddly enough, the very last out. I don't know why you don't just still have him finish at that point. It was odd to then put in Banda for just 1 out at that point. But sure, whatever. It shouldn't affect him throwing 3 pitches and he's got a day off. But the whole point is, like, it was clear that they were trying to see if Flaherty would work through it, even though he didn't have it at all today, and it was painfully obvious. And once he was really getting rocked in the third. It was bizarre to not have anybody up ready behind him. I was listening on the radio broadcast coming home from work, and Rick Monday was losing his mind over how Brent Honeywell was practically like just taking a drink and like just having a vacation in the bullpen, because he's like, Honeywell, I guess, according to Rick Monday, before throwing any pitches, was like fiddling with the pitch comm and then tying his shoes. And he's like, why isn't he just, there's no urgency here. And to that, I understand. But also with everything going on that inning, I don't know if Brent Honeywell is actually the person you should be blaming for all of the fiasco. I think Rick was just kind of letting out some anger there. But yeah, at that point, it was weird that Flaherty was, as he was getting rocked there in the third inning, it took a long time for there to be any movement up in the pen.
Yeah, I don't even know if waiting till the third inning was the right choice. I get what you're saying, where it's like you don't want to pull the string too fast, but like he could not get a strike in the first. He could not get a strike if his life depended on it. It was bad. It was bad from the beginning. And again, the speed thing, I didn't even realize that. I just was like, he can't control the ball. He can't control the ball. There's no strike that he's thrown or even kind of near the strike zone. And the Mets just realized that, and they just waited. And they waited, and then he started throwing strikes. And they were like, perfect. It's a slow one. We'll hit it.
Yeah. I mean, in fairness to Flaherty, the pitch that Alonso hit for a home run was was a good pitch. Whatever. That's
He hit it with a driver. Like that was off a tee. Like literally, he had to dig it off of the ground in order to hit it. And he listen, it's Pete Alonso's last game in New York, so you might as well give him.
I mean, we have the benefit of hindsight, obviously, but Flaherty was on 4 days rest, and he had been pitching on 6 days rest, I believe, because of his back problems.
Right.
So it is I do kind of wonder maybe going with the bullpen game today
would have been better.
Would have been a better thing. But they also used their high leverage arms last night. So it's almost a damned if you do, damned if you don't. I just hate punting the game. I think that's stupid. I think it's the second time Dave did it, and it's dangerous. I don't think they're going to lose to Sean Manaea on Sunday. I think they will win that game. But you don't want to be in a game 6 against a guy that you've had trouble with, because you don't want to have a game 7, because anything can happen in a game 7. You just don't want to do that. So yeah, it's a little frustrating today to basically give up on that game, because if they had managed a little more aggressively, it's probably more like 7-1, 6-1, and then it becomes a real game.
Yeah. I do think, to the point of Manaea, and this is where I kind of want to, as a fan base, we can calm down a little bit. Think about this. Jack Flaherty dominated game 1, and the Mets had to face him in an elimination game, and they were able to get to him incredibly effectively. Sean Manaea looked pretty good against the Dodgers in his first game. Not as good as Flaherty did. Flaherty threw 7 shutout. Manaea didn't do that. They were able to get runners on against Manaea.
Yeah.
I think facing him a second time in this series should favor the Dodgers, because the exposure is now there. There's a slight, a tad bit more comfortability, and it's hard to see him having 2 really strong starts in this series. He's good, but
the one good thing about today too is they made the Mets use their bullpen.
Yes.
Edwin Diaz, I think he pitched the last 2 innings, right?
Yeah, he did.
So yeah, that's great. That's fine.
Yeah. And they went to Ryan Stanek in the 5th, and Reed Garrett prior to that. Like, these are arguably their 3 best relievers. That they brought out today, and they kept Edwin Diaz in there with a 6-run lead in the 9th inning and still made him work. So I think those are positives that work in the Dodgers' favor going into returning the series to LA. I think they should be able to win game 6. I really do.
There's no reason. There's no reason for them not to. I don't know if you guys saw, but Dave said he's going to have a conversation with Freddie about playing, and I don't think he should be playing.
Is it the hand on the shoulder meme?
Right.
Yeah. Like, hey, buddy,
you're not going to be playing, Fred.
Yeah, which is so. It's so tough, but also we did just watch this offense score 10 runs without him last night. So
he can't do anything. It's obvious at this point.
Yeah. Yeah,
I'm with you, Ryan, that there is still a lot of positive, like the fact that it's a day off, the fact that I feel like they can't keep this momentum because the game is not tomorrow. You gotta go home, you gotta pack, you gotta get on a flight, you gotta come. Like everything it's starting over. It is starting over. And I think more importantly for me is that over the course of the last 5 games, the Dodgers are the better team. Yeah. And there's no question about it. So it's like they just have to remember that. They just have to remember that they are capable, that they are the better team, and win Game 6.
Yeah. Look at the games the way that they've gone. The 3 games that the Dodgers have won, they've straight up dominated. And the 2 games that the Mets have won were games that the Dodgers, in essence, punted. Right? Yeah. Like you got Landon Knack and the back half of the bullpen in terms of the lesser pitchers in the bullpen for Game 2. Heck, both Brent Honeywell and I don't want to get Brent Honeywell actually pitched very well today. For him to eat up all of those innings is super valuable for these last 2 games. So I give a ton of credit to Brent Honeywell. He did the same thing in Game 2, and that was a huge help by him eating up a few innings in that game. It paid dividends in 3 and 4 for the Dodgers pitching staff. So the 2 games that the Mets have won though were Brent Honeywell eat the middle innings games. And I don't think you're going to see those anymore in the rest of this series. So I do think that really the Dodgers should still be viewed as the favorites here. I understand that, yes, we're running into their ace in Manaea, who did give us trouble in the first game. But I think that the Dodgers, especially with an off day prior to Manaea's start, they're going to be super prepared for him because they just saw him a bunch. They're going to be watching that tape constantly. And quite frankly, the offense isn't a problem still, right? Yeah. Like the offense still produced 6 runs today, and credit to Andy Pages. Andy Pages had the best game of his career thus far. Honestly, they had 2 home runs in a league championship series game. That's awesome. So, great job, Pages. Something that we especially
from
need.
Center field to Will Smith was a perfect throw.
Exactly. He's established that his arm is a threat in center field. Earlier in the game, they didn't run on him because he's established the fact that he can throw from center. So that's great. A great game from Pages today.
I mean, flat out, if the Dodgers can't beat Sean Manaea with this lineup, then they probably don't deserve to even go to the World Series. Yeah. So that, I mean, that's it at the end of the day. As we said last night, like stars playing like stars is how you win postseason games. Yeah. I really, excuse my language, I don't give a fuck who's on the other mound. If you have Shohei Ohtani, Mookie Betts in your lineup, you need to score runs. Yeah. That's the name of the game. I don't care.
Mm-hmm. And Mookie homered again, which is wonderful. Ryan Stanek dominated everyone else that he faced, but Mookie was able to take him deep. So I think that's great. Ohtani still had a couple hits, right? He at least had one.
A single and then a double and then a walk and then
So listen, the offense is not I mentioned to you guys, the one move that I hated the most actually was having Gavin Lux hit for Will Smith late in the game. Because as Beau, as you mentioned, like Will has been struggling, and when you're kind of in essence punting this game, when you're down by 5-6 runs, why are we taking an at-bat away from Will Smith? He needs all these at-bats, as many as he can in order to get right. The same reason why, Teoscar staying in there is the right move, because they need to be seeing these pitchers. Yeah. So I thought that was weird to get Gavin in there. I think that's another thing of probably Dave being like, Gavin, I don't want him to go 2 full days without playing. But also Gavin got hurt earlier in the series. So it's totally fine for him to not be playing. That was the move I disliked the most. Maybe getting Barnes in there for a couple innings might be good for him, because if Will is struggling at this level, maybe you want to consider putting in Barnes at some point. I still wouldn't.
That would be so funny to put Austin Barnes in for Game 7.
Yeah.
Jesus, dude.
So maybe that's knowing Dave. That was probably his idea, is making sure that like Lux and Barnes got a couple looks here before they left New York. But I think that Will Smith needs all the at-bats that he can get right now. So didn't love that.
I didn't love much of it, but
no, there's not a lot to love from this one. Really, pretty ugly game. But I mean, credit to the offense because this game was extra ugly in the beginning, and it only ended up being slightly ugly. So
no, yeah, for sure. They fought as best they could offensively.
Yeah, seriously. So the series now shifts back to LA. Again, 3-2. Hopefully they just take care of business in game 6. Nobody wants to have an emotional attachment to game 7. So let's not even get there.
Yeah.
Let's just take care of it in 6 and then and rest a little bit. And then hopefully, we're celebrating a team that's in the World Series. Still feel good. Still feel good. Still feel good. It's taking 2 of 3 in New York is a good thing. Yes. Like after game 2, if you said they're taking 2 of 3 in New York, you would still feel great about that.
They did their job. They did their job. They won on the road.
Yeah,
they did.
Yeah. So I don't think it's just cope to say that, it still should feel pretty good.
Yeah.
I think I'm just nervous because all day we heard national media members saying it feels like this series is over. This series is over. And
apparently it was the Dodgers players that were saying that, which I would love to hear who said that.
Yeah, I don't think that ever happened.
I don't think that was a thing.
That was an odd thing to see. No, it's and I'm last night, Beau and I felt like I was just too confident after the game last night. And I don't want to have that all bite us in the back. Exactly.
How couldn't you be?
Yeah.
I legit, I was like, well, I guess the Dodgers are going to wrap it up today. We'll see when the Yankees wrap it up. That's literally what I thought today. So how could you not be?
Yes. I think that's why today was kind of super frustrating because I think a lot of us watched game 4 and thought, all right, well, this is pretty much over. Let's just this last win is a formality. Let's just get over with. And then to lose in that manner, it brings you back down to earth a little bit and makes the nerves kind of kick back in a bit. So
sure, but again, we didn't get shut out. It wasn't like they played dead and they were out. They played. They just the Mets were up against the wall. It was an elimination game. They had no other choice. They did it.
In 2021, there was a team that was down 3-1 in the NLCS and put up 11 or 12 runs in game 5 and won game 5.
2020.
And then they lost game 6. I'm talking about.
No, yeah, you're right. You're right.
Remember that? Right. The Dodgers went off in game 5 against the Braves in the 21 NLCS.
That's right.
To bring the series back to, I think it was in Atlanta then for game 6, and then they lost that one. We've seen teams come back from down 3-1. We've also seen teams put up a fight and make it 3-2 and then not win. Yeah. So the Dodgers just have to win one game at home to get to the World Series. That's still
if they can't do that, then that's sorry.
Yes, exactly. All right, so let's hope that they just wrap this up before the next time we all talk to one another. So let's wrap this up here. This is the Sick Podcast, the Dodger Zone. My name's Ryan Bershinger. She is Monse Bolaños. He is Beau Benson. Follow the podcast at SickPodDodgers on Twitter. Follow us on Apple, Spotify, wherever you get your podcasts. Follow us and like us and subscribe on YouTube. So until next time, 6 down still, 5 to go still. Domo arigato, everyone. Thank you very much.
Bye-bye.
Ciao.
And that's a wrap. Hope you don't miss us too much until next time. Follow the Sick Podcast, the Dodger Zone, on YouTube, Google Play, and Apple Podcasts.